My name is Robert Hutchins. I'm 67 years old, and for 30 years I served in the United States Navy. I survived 3 deployments, countless storms at sea, and situations that would make most people's blood run cold. But nothing prepared me for the moment I realized my own daughter was trying to kill me. Stephanie was my only child. After her mother died of a heart attack 6 years ago, it was just the 2 of us. She was 38, divorced twice, always jumping from one crisis to another. First, it was the failed catering business, then the boutique that went under in 8 months, then the investment opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme. Each time, I bailed her out. That's what fathers do, right? The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. The designer handbags that cost more than my monthly pension. The constant deliveries from Nordstrom and Saks. The way she'd dodge questions about her finances. But she was my daughter. My little girl who used to sit on my shoulders at the pier, watching the ships come in. 3 months ago, she showed up at my condo in San Diego with tears in her eyes. She'd maxed out 7 credit cards. The total was somewhere north of $185,000. The interest alone was drowning her. She was getting threatening calls from collection agencies. She'd already had her car repossessed. I sat her down. I was firm this time. No more bailouts. She needed to file for bankruptcy, get counseling, face the consequences of her choices. I'd help her find a financial advisor, but I wasn't writing another check. At my age, I needed to protect my retirement, my savings, the insurance policy that would eventually go to her anyway. She left angry that day. Didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. Then, out of nowhere, she called. Her voice was different, warm, apologetic. She'd been doing a lot of thinking, she said. She was sorry. She wanted to make things right between us. She'd actually started seeing a therapist, joined a Debtors Anonymous group. She wanted to spend time together, reconnect, make up for all the strain she'd put on our relationship. I was relieved, grateful. Maybe the tough love had finally worked. She said she'd rented a beach house down in Carlsbad for a long weekend. Nothing fancy, but right on the ocean. She wanted me to come stay with her. We could talk, walk on the beach, cook meals together like we used to when she was young. It would be good for both of us. I said yes immediately. The house was beautiful. A small craftsman-style cottage about 50 yards from the shore, tucked behind some larger properties. Private, peaceful. The sound of waves was constant. Stephanie had stocked the kitchen, bought my favorite beer, even had fresh flowers in a vase on the counter. We arrived on a Thursday afternoon in late July. It was unseasonably hot, even for Southern California. The forecast called for temperatures in the upper 90s all weekend, which was unusual for the coast. But inside the house was cool. The ocean breeze came through the windows. It felt like paradise. That first evening was wonderful. We grilled fish, drank wine, watched the sunset from the deck. Stephanie seemed genuinely different. Calmer, more present. We talked about her mother, about my time in the Navy, about her plans to get her life together. She apologized again for the financial burden she'd been. I told her I loved her, that we'd get through this together, but differently this time, with boundaries. She hugged me tight, said she was lucky to have me as her father. I went to bed that night feeling lighter than I had in months. Maybe this was the turning point. Maybe we'd finally found our way back to each other. I woke up Friday morning to complete silence. The house felt different, heavier. I called out for Stephanie. No answer. I walked through the cottage. Her bedroom door was open. The bed was made. Her suitcase was gone. That's when I noticed the note on the kitchen counter, propped against the coffee maker. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. The handwriting was Stephanie's, but the words made my stomach drop. Dad, I'm sorry. I tried to do this the right way, but you wouldn't help me. The credit card companies are threatening to sue. I'm going to lose everything. You have a $500,000 life insurance policy. I'm the beneficiary. In a few days, they'll find you here. It'll look like you had a heart attack or a stroke. An old man, alone in a beach house during a heat wave. It happens all the time. No one will question it. By the time they find you, I'll have already filed the claim. I'll pay off my debts and finally have a fresh start. I know you won't understand, but I'm desperate. I hope, wherever you end up, you can forgive me someday. I did love you. I just loved myself more. I read it 3 times. My brain couldn't process it. This had to be a joke. A sick, twisted joke. But Stephanie wasn't the joking type, especially not about something like this. I tried the front door, locked, deadbolted from the outside. I could see the keyhole, but it required a key from both sides. The kind of lock you'd use for security, ironically. I moved to the back door. Same thing. Locked tight with a deadbolt. I couldn't open from inside, without a key. The windows. I ran to every window in the house. Every single one had been screwed shut. Not nailed, screwed. Heavy-duty screws driven through the frame into the sill. She must have done it while I was asleep. I tried to break one. The glass was reinforced, probably hurricane glass. I grabbed a chair and swung it as hard as I could. The chair splintered. The window barely cracked. My phone. I ran back to my bedroom. My cell phone was gone. She'd taken it while I was sleeping. I looked for a landline. There wasn't one. Why would there be? Nobody has landlines in rental properties anymore. I was trapped. The panic hit me like a wave. I'm 67 years old. I have high blood pressure. It's going to be in the 90 seconds today. The house has no air conditioning, just ceiling fans. And my daughter has locked me inside a wooden box to die. I sat down on the couch, forced myself to breathe. In the Navy, they taught us that panic kills faster than any actual threat. Stay calm, assess the situation, develop a plan. Water. That was the first priority. I went to the kitchen sink and turned the tap. Nothing. Not a drop. I tried the bathroom. Same thing. She'd shut off the water main. Of course she had. Dehydration would speed up the process. Make it look more natural. An elderly man in the heat without water wouldn't last more than a few days. I opened the refrigerator. She'd stocked it yesterday, right? There was food, but she'd removed every single beverage. No water bottles, no juice, no milk, nothing liquid except 1 6-pack of my favorite IPA. I grabbed one, then stopped. Alcohol dehydrates you. That's exactly what she'd want. Think, Robert. Think. The toilet tanks. I went to both bathrooms. The tanks still had water in them. It's not ideal, but it's water. It would buy me time. I found a mug and filled it from the tank. The water was clear. No chemicals. I could work with this. I had maybe 2 gallons total between both tanks. In this heat, I'd need at least 1 gallon a day to survive. That gave me 2 days, maybe 3 if I was careful. The heat was already building. It was probably 80 degrees inside by mid-morning. By afternoon, it would be unbearable. I needed to stay cool, conserve energy, minimize sweating. I closed all the curtains to block out the sun. I stripped down to my boxers. I found towels and soaked them in toilet water, then draped them over my body. Evaporative cooling. Basic survival technique. I positioned myself on the tile floor in the bathroom, where it was coolest. But I couldn't just survive. I needed to get out, or get help. I systematically went through every inch of the house, looking for tools. Anything I could use. The kitchen drawers had been cleared of any knives or sharp objects. No screwdrivers, no hammers, nothing in the closets. She'd been thorough. Then I found it, under the bathroom sink, behind the cleaning supplies. A bottle of drain cleaner, industrial strength, sodium hydroxide, caustic as hell. An idea formed. The bathroom window was smaller than the others, but it was still that reinforced glass. However, the screws holding it shut were Philip's head. If I could somehow remove those screws, I could open the window. It was small, but I'm not a large man. I could squeeze through. But I didn't have a screwdriver. I took the drain cleaner and a spoon from the kitchen. I poured a small amount of the cleaner onto the screw head of one screw. The caustic chemicals started to work on the metal. It wasn't fast, but I could see it etching. I let it sit for 20 minutes, then used the edge of the spoon to try to turn it. My hands were shaking. The heat was becoming oppressive. Sweat dripped into my eyes. The screw moved, just slightly, but it moved. I spent the next 4 hours on that window. Pour cleaner. Wait, try the spoon. Pour more cleaner. My hands were raw. The fumes from the chemicals made me dizzy. But screw by screw, I got them out. All 8 of them. By the time I finished, it was late afternoon. The temperature inside had to be close to 95 degrees. I was lightheaded, nauseous. I'd drunk half my water supply. I pushed open the window. The ocean breeze hit my face like a gift from God. The window was about 3 feet off the ground outside. I could squeeze through. I put my pants back on, found my shoes, and started to climb out. That's when I heard voices. People walking on the beach. A family. Kids laughing. I started shouting, waving my arms through the window. They couldn't hear me over the waves. The house was set back too far. But I kept shouting anyway. Eventually, a teenage boy noticed me. He looked confused. Started walking toward the house. I yelled for him to call 911. Told him I was trapped. He pulled out his phone. Within 20 minutes, the Carlsbad Police Department was there. They had to break down the front door. By the time they got inside, I was barely conscious. Severe dehydration. Heat exhaustion. They called an ambulance. At the hospital, they stabilized me. Gave me IV fluids. Monitored my heart. The doctors said if I'd been in there another 12 hours, I probably wouldn't have made it. My organs were starting to shut down. The police found Stephanie at a hotel in Los Angeles. She'd checked in Thursday night, created an alibi. She planned to stay there through the weekend, then drive back down on Monday and discover my body. She'd even texted herself from my phone before she left, making it look like I was fine. She'd taken my phone, turned off the location services, and left it in her car. But she'd made mistakes. The police found her searches on her laptop. How long does dehydration take to kill someone? Heat stroke symptoms elderly. When can you claim life insurance? She'd researched the house, specifically because it was isolated and had those security locks. The note. She'd left the damn note. I don't know why. Maybe she needed to justify it to herself. Maybe she thought I'd be too far gone to show it to anyone. Maybe she wanted me to know, wanted me to understand her desperation in my final moments. But that note was a full confession. The district attorney charged her with attempted murder, elder abuse, and fraud. Her public defender tried to argue diminished capacity, claimed she was having a mental health crisis. But the evidence was overwhelming. The premeditation, the planning, the note. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I had to testify, had to sit there and recount every detail while my daughter stared at me from the defense table. She didn't look remorseful. She looked angry, like I'd betrayed her by surviving. In her own testimony, she actually said, I needed that money more than he needed to keep living. He was old. He'd already had his life. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge gave her 28 years. She'll be 66 by the time she's eligible for parole, the same age I am now. I haven't spoken to her since the verdict. She's tried to write to me from prison. I burned the letters unopened. Some people think I'm cruel for that. They say she's still my daughter, that I should forgive. But they weren't locked in that beach house. They didn't feel their bodies shutting down while their own child checked into a hotel and ordered room service. I sold the condo in San Diego. Too many memories. I moved up to Oregon, bought a small place near the coast. Different ocean, different life. I volunteer at the VA hospital now. I talk to other veterans about survival, resilience, the things we've endured. Sometimes people ask me how I survived. They want to know about the technical details. The drain cleaner, the screws, the toilet water. But survival isn't really about the mechanics. It's about the will to keep going when everything inside you wants to give up. In the Navy, we had a saying, the only easy day was yesterday. It means every day presents new challenges, new obstacles. You don't get to rest on past victories. You face what's in front of you and you keep moving forward. That weekend in Carlsbad, I had 2 choices. I could lie down on that bathroom floor and wait to die, or I could fight. I chose to fight. Not because I'm special or heroic. I fought because the alternative was letting my daughter's greed become the final chapter of my story. And I refused to give her that power. I learned something in that house. You can love someone unconditionally and still set boundaries. You can be someone's parent and still protect yourself from their toxicity. Love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself on the altar of someone else's dysfunction. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no, and mean it. I also learned that you're never too old to fight for your life. I'm 67. I have high blood pressure, arthritis in both knees, and I can't hear worth a damn out of my left ear. But when it mattered, when my back was against the wall, I found the strength. That strength was always there. I just had to be desperate enough to access it. The life insurance policy? I changed the beneficiary to a charity that helps veterans with PTSD. Stephanie won't see a dime of it. She made her choice. I made mine. I think about that weekend sometimes. The quiet moments before I found the note. The last dinner we shared. How normal it all seemed. How she looked me in the eye and hugged me, knowing what she was planning to do. That's what haunts me most. Not the heat or the thirst or the fear. It's the calculation. The coldness. The fact that she could sit across from me, smile, and know she was going to kill me in the morning. But I also think about the teenage boy on the beach who heard me shouting. The police officers who broke down the door. The nurses at the hospital who held my hand while I cried. The prosecutor who fought for justice. The jury who saw through Stephanie's excuses. There are good people in this world. People who show up. People who care. My daughter thought she knew me. Thought she could predict how things would go. She saw an old man, someone weak, someone who'd be easy to dispose of. She underestimated me. She forgot that I'd spent 3 decades in one of the toughest branches of military service. She forgot that I'd survived things far worse than a locked beach house. Or maybe she never really knew me at all. I got a letter last month from a woman in Nevada. Her son had tried something similar, tried to poison her to access her estate. She'd read about my case in the news. She wanted to thank me for speaking out, for not being ashamed. She said my story gave her the courage to press charges, to not let guilt or maternal love stop her from seeking justice. That letter meant more to me than anything else. Because if my nightmare can help someone else survive theirs, then maybe it wasn't completely meaningless. Maybe some good can come from it. I'm 67 years old. I've survived storms at sea, deployments in dangerous waters, and a daughter who tried to murder me. I'm still here. I'm still fighting, and I'm going to keep fighting until the day I die. But it'll be on my terms, not anyone else's. That beach house in Carlsbad still stands. They rent it out to tourists who have no idea what happened there. I drove by it once, about a year after the trial. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see it, to remind myself it was real, to prove to myself I'd survived. I sat in my car across the street and watched a family unload their luggage. Kids running around, parents laughing, normal people having a normal vacation. I thought about getting out, knocking on the door, warning them. But warning them about what? The house itself isn't evil. It's just wood and glass and memories. The evil was in the person who weaponized it. I drove away. I haven't been back since. People tell me I should write a book, put it all down. Maybe it would help others. Maybe. But some stories are too personal to share in that way. This conversation, right here, this is enough. I've said what I needed to say. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Pay attention to the people in your life. The patterns, the red flags, the moments when something feels off. Trust your instincts. And if someone you love is spiraling, truly spiraling, know that you can't save them from themselves. You can offer help, but you can't force change. And you absolutely cannot sacrifice yourself in the process. Set boundaries, enforce them, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. And if you ever find yourself trapped, literally or figuratively, remember this: you're stronger than you think. You have more resources than you realize. And giving up is a choice. It's always a choice. Choose differently. I did. And I'm still here to tell the story.